Listen closely, because the life you have been sold is a lie. You do not have to trade your time for money until you are 65 years old. You do not have to endure a boss you hate or a commute that drains your soul. There is a mathematical escape hatch, but the system does not want you to find it. Today, we are not just talking about saving pennies. We are building an engine that buys your freedom. This is your roadmap to retiring a decade early. Let's begin.
Chapter List. 10 chapters. 1. The 9-to-5 trap is a choice, not a destiny. 2. Widen the gap. Your wealth depends on this one number. 3. Kill the parasites. Eliminate consumer debt immediately. 4. Build your fortress, the FU Money Fund. 5. Stop saving, start owning, the engine of compound interest. 6. Maximize the match, free money you are leaving on the table. 7. The 4% rule, calculating your exact freedom number. 8. Optimize your big 3, housing, transport, and food. 9. Accelerate the process, income skills over hourly wages. 10. Protect the goose. Staying wealthy is harder than getting wealthy.
Chapter 1. The 9-to-5 trap is a choice, not a destiny. Welcome to the wake-up call. If you are listening to this, you have likely felt a nagging sensation in the back of your mind for years. A feeling that something about the standard plan doesn't add up. You did what you were told. You went to school, you took out the loans, you got the degree, and you landed the job. You are following the script, and yet you feel trapped. Society calls this the American dream. I call it the 9-to-5 trap. And the most dangerous part of this trap is that the door isn't locked. You are staying inside because you think you have to. But listen to me closely. You have a choice. The narrative we are fed from childhood is designed to create good employees and avid consumers, not wealthy individuals. The script says, work hard, buy a house you can barely afford, lease a car that loses value the moment you drive it off the lot, and save 5% of your paycheck until you are 65. Then, maybe, if your health holds up, you can enjoy a few years of freedom before you die. Does that sound like a good deal to you? Of course not. It's a scam. The problem is that most people define wealth incorrectly. They look at the lawyer driving the luxury SUV or the doctor with the sprawling McMansion and think, that person is rich. But you don't know their balance sheet. In the United States, a terrifying percentage of high-income earners are living paycheck to paycheck. They are one corporate layoff, one medical emergency, or one bad quarter away from total ruin. That isn't wealth. That is high-status poverty. We need to redefine the goal immediately. The goal is not to be rich in terms of material possessions. The goal is financial independence. Financial independence is a specific state of being. It is the point where the income generated by your assets, your investments, your real estate, your business systems exceeds the cost of your lifestyle. When you cross that line, work becomes optional. You don't show up to the office because you are terrified of losing your health insurance. You show up only if you want to. Or you don't show up at all. But to get there, you have to fight the greatest enemy of wealth building, It isn't the tax man, and it isn't the stock market. It is lifestyle creep. Lifestyle creep is the silent killer of dreams. It works like this. You get a promotion. Your salary goes up by $10,000 a year. Suddenly, your reliable Honda doesn't feel good enough anymore. You deserve an upgrade, right? You worked hard. So, you finance a customized truck or a luxury sedan. You move into an apartment with slightly higher rent or buy a house with a slightly bigger mortgage. You start eating out 4 times a week instead of 1. By the end of the year, that extra $10,000 is gone. You are earning more money, but you are no freer than you were when you were making minimum wage. You have just built a slightly gilded cage. That's the key. You must understand that as long as your spending matches your income, you are running on a treadmill. You can run faster, you can earn more, you can hustle harder, but you will never move forward. It's not about income, it's about discipline. I know people making $50,000 a year who are on the fast track to retiring in their 30s. I also know investment bankers making $500,000 a year who are drowning in debt and cannot sleep at night because they are over-leveraged. Who is wealthier? The banker has the toys, but the worker has the freedom. You have to stop looking at money as a way to buy things. You need to start looking at money as a tool to buy time. Here is the philosophy you must adopt today. You are not buying things with money. You are buying them with the hours of your life you will never get back. Let's do the math. Suppose you take home $25 an hour after taxes. You see a new 85-inch 4K TV on sale for $1,000. You swipe your credit card. You didn't just spend $1,000. You just volunteered to sit at your desk under fluorescent lights, doing work you might not enjoy, for 40 hours, an entire week of your life, just to own that plastic screen. Was it worth a week of your life? Now scale that up. That $50,000 car you want to finance? That isn't a car. That is 2 to 3 years of your freedom shackled to a job. When you sign those loan papers, you are signing away your future. You are promising the bank that you will show up to work for the next 60 months, regardless of whether you want to or not, just to pay for the metal box you use to drive to the job to pay for the metal box. It is insanity. But everyone else is doing it, so it feels normal. You have to break the herd mentality. Your neighbors, your family, and the advertisements on your phone are all screaming at you to consume. They measure success by what you display. But true wealth is what you don't see. True wealth is the car you didn't buy. It's the house you didn't upgrade. It's the clothes you didn't purchase so that you could funnel that money into assets that pay you. You don't need their permission to live differently. You don't need your parents to understand why you are driving a 10-year-old car when you could afford a new one. You don't need your friends to validate why you aren't going on that expensive vacation this year. You are playing a different game. They are playing the game of looking rich. You are playing the game of getting free. This requires a psychological shift. You have to detach your ego from your spending. In the US, we conflate net worth with self-worth. We think, if I have a lot of stuff, I am important. You must destroy that connection. Your self-worth comes from your autonomy. It comes from the ability to wake up on a Tuesday morning and ask, what do I want to do today, rather than, what do I have to do today? The moment you stop trying to impress people you don't even like, your path to wealth accelerates. You have a choice every single time you open your wallet. Is this purchase bringing me closer to freedom, or is it pushing the finish line further away? Every dollar you spend is an employee you are firing. Every dollar you invest is an employee you are hiring to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to earn more money for you. This isn't about deprivation. I am not asking you to live in a cardboard box and eat rice and beans for the rest of your life. I am asking you to be intentional. I am asking you to decide what actually matters to you and cut the rest mercilessly. If you love travel, spend money on travel, but then drive a beater car. If you love cars, buy the car, but then live in a smaller apartment. You cannot have it all, not yet. If you try to have it all right now, you will end up with nothing but debt and regret. The 9 to 5 is only a trap if you spend every dime you make. If you save and invest the difference, the 9 to 5 is simply a launching pad. It is the funding source for your future freedom. But you have to treat it that way. You have to stop bleeding money into liabilities. We are going to dismantle your financial life and rebuild it from the ground up. We are going to stop the bleeding. We are going to change the way you view every paycheck that hits your direct deposit. But it starts with this realization. No one is coming to save you. The government isn't going to solve your retirement crisis. Your company isn't going to take care of you. It is all on you. And that is good news. Because if it is on you, that means you have the power to change it. So, how do we actually do this? How do we move from the philosophy of freedom to the mechanics of wealth? It starts with a simple math equation. It starts by looking at the distance between what you earn and what you spend. Most people ignore this number, but it is the single most critical metric in your financial existence. It is the gap. And the wider you make that gap, the faster you escape the trap. Let's talk about how to widen the gap.
Chapter 2. Widen the Gap. Your wealth depends on this one number. Stop obsessing over the stock market. Stop checking your crypto portfolio every 5 minutes. Stop thinking that the only way out of the rat race is to invent the next Amazon or win the lottery. You are focusing on the wrong numbers. There is only one metric that determines when and if you will ever be free. It is not your salary. It is not your investment return. It is the difference between what you earn and what you spend. We call this the gap. Think of your life as a business. You are the CEO of You, Inc. In business, revenue is vanity, but profit is sanity. You can have a company bringing in $10 million a year, but if it spends $10,001, that company is broke. It is bankrupt. It has zero value. Most Americans run their lives like bad businesses. They chase high revenue, high salaries, but they run their expenses right up to the limit of their income. They make $100,000, they spend $100,000. They make $200,000, they spend $200,000. Their profit margin is zero. And because their profit margin is zero, their freedom is zero. That's the key. Your savings rate is the gas pedal for your financial freedom. If you want to go faster, you have to widen the gap. Let's look at the math, because math doesn't lie. Math doesn't care about your excuses. If you spend 100% of what you earn, you can never retire. Never. It doesn't matter if you earn $30,000 or $3 million. If you spend it all, you are a slave to your income source forever. You are working just to sustain the machinery of your existence. Now, let's say you follow the standard American advice. You save 10% of your income. That is considered responsible by most people. But do you know what that actually means? It means for every year you work, you are buying roughly 1 month of freedom. At a 10% savings rate, assuming a modest return on investment, it will take you over 50 years to reach financial independence. If you start at 25, you are free at 75. Is that the plan? To be free when you are too old to enjoy it? Now, watch what happens when you get serious. Watch what happens when you prioritize your life over your stuff. If you save 50% of your income, meaning you live on half of what you make, the math changes radically. For every year you work, you buy 1 entire year of freedom. At a 50% savings rate, you can go from 0 to retired in about 17 years. Start at 25, free by 42. If you can push it to 75%, which sounds impossible until you realize how little you actually need to be happy, you are looking at less than 7 years. It's not about income, it's about discipline. I can hear you arguing already, but I can't save 50% of my income. I have bills, I have kids, cost of living is up. I understand. It is hard, but do not confuse hard with impossible. There are families making $60,000 a year who save more money than single professionals making $150,000. How? Because the family understands the value of a dollar and the professional is drunk on status. You have a choice. You can choose to look rich or you can choose to be free. Widening the gap requires you to pull 2 levers: income and expenses. Most people only want to talk about income. They say, "I'll save more when I get a raise." That is a lie. You know it's a lie because you've gotten raises before and you are still broke. This is Parkinson's law in effect. Work expands to fill the time available and expenses expand to rise to the level of income. If you cannot manage $50,000, you cannot manage $500,000. You will just blow it on more expensive mistakes. That is why we focus on expenses first. Defense wins championships. Controlling your burn rate is the most powerful thing you can do because it has a double effect. First, every dollar you cut from your monthly budget is a dollar you can invest. That's obvious. But second, and this is the magic part, every dollar you cut permanently lowers the amount of money you need to survive. If you learn to live happily on $3,000 a month instead of $5,000, you don't just save $2,000 a month. You also lower your freedom number. You need less capital to retire because your life costs less to run. You are attacking the problem from both ends. This is where the psychology of the U.S. consumer culture tries to trap you. Marketing is designed to make you feel inadequate if you're not spending. They want you to believe that budgeting is for poor people. They want you to believe that driving an older car is embarrassing. You don't need their permission to opt out of that game. Let's get practical. How do you widen the gap today? You have to track every single penny. You cannot manage what you do not measure. For the next 30 days, I want you to track every transaction. You will be horrified. You will find leaks everywhere, subscriptions you forgot about, convenience fees, dining out because you were too lazy to cook. These are not small things. These are the termites eating the foundation of your financial house. A $10 daily lunch habit is $300 a month. If you invested that $300 a month into an S&P 500 index fund, averaging 8% returns, over 30 years, that is over $400,000. That lukewarm sandwich isn't costing you $10. It is costing you nearly $500,000 of your future wealth. Is the sandwich worth $400,000? That's the key. You have to start viewing every expense through the lens of opportunity cost. Once you lock down your expenses, then you attack the income lever. You ask for the raise. You start the side hustle. You get the certification. But now, because your expenses are fixed and your lifestyle is controlled, every single extra dollar you earn goes straight into the gap. It goes straight into your freedom fund. When you get a $5,000 bonus, you don't book a cruise. You buy
$5,000 worth of freedom. When you get a tax refund, you don't buy a new TV. You buy stocks. You become a capital accumulation machine. This requires a level of toughness that most people do not possess. Most people are soft. They need their treats. They need their retail therapy to cope with the job they hate. It is a vicious cycle. They spend to feel better about working, which forces them to work longer, which makes them miserable, so they spend more. You're going to break that cycle. You are going to find pride in your savings rate. You are going to brag about how high your gap is, not how high your car payment is. Imagine the feeling of having 50% of your paycheck left over at the end of the month. Imagine the security. Imagine the power. If your boss yells at you, you don't have to panic. You have options. You have the gap. But there is a massive obstacle standing in your way. Even if you widen the gap, even if you start saving, there is a parasite that will eat your wealth faster than you can build it. It is a system designed to keep you poor, and it is currently infecting millions of Americans. You cannot fill a bucket that is full of holes. And the biggest hole in your financial bucket is debt. We have talked about making money and keeping money. Now, in the next chapter, we are going to talk about the emergency surgery you need to perform on your finances to kill the parasites before they kill your future. It is time to declare war on debt.
Chapter 3. Kill the parasites. Eliminate consumer debt immediately. We have defined the trap. We have done the math on the gap. Now we have to look in the mirror and address the ugly truth that is keeping most of you poor. You are hosting a parasite. It lives in your wallet. It lives in your bank statements. It eats your paycheck before you even get to touch it. I am talking about consumer debt, credit cards, personal loans, car payments, buy now, pay later schemes. These are not financial tools. They are shackles. They are parasites sucking the lifeblood out of your financial future. If you have credit card debt, I want you to stop thinking about investing. Stop thinking about passive income. You are in a financial emergency. Your house is on fire. You do not worry about mowing the lawn when your living room is engulfed in flames. You put the fire out. Here is the brutal reality of the American banking system. You are the product. Banks do not make their massive profits from wealthy people who pay off their balances every month. They make their billions from the revolvers, the people who carry a balance, pay the minimum, and get hit with 20%, 25%, or even 30% interest rates. Let's look at the math, because the math is terrifying. The stock market, on average, might give you an 8 to 10% return over the long run. That is how you build wealth. But your credit card is charging you 25% interest. Do you see the problem? That's the key. You cannot out-earn or out-invest a 25% negative return. If you are investing $500 a month in stocks while carrying $5,000 on a credit card, you are not building wealth. You are taking one step forward and 3 steps back. You are playing a game you are mathematically guaranteed to lose. You are effectively borrowing money at 25% to invest at 10%. It is insanity. But it gets worse. When you carry debt, you are paying for your past. You are sending your hard-earned money to pay for a dinner you ate 3 months ago, or a vacation you took last year, or clothes that are already out of style. You are working today to pay for a version of you that doesn't exist anymore. Here is the mantra you need to burn into your brain. Interest is the penalty you pay for the past. Investing is the price you pay for the future. Right now, you are paying the penalty, and you have to stop. Most people treat debt like a pet. They feed it a little bit every month with minimum payments. They think, as long as I make the minimum payment, I'm okay. My credit score is fine. The minimum payment is a trap designed by the banks to keep you in debt until the day you die.
If you pay the minimum on a $10,000 balance, it could take you over 20 years to pay it off. You will end up paying double or triple the original amount in interest alone. The bank loves you. You are their favorite customer. You are their cash cow. You have a choice. You can continue to be a cash cow for the bank, or you can slaughter the cow and eat the steaks yourself. It is time to declare war on your debt. This isn't a budget adjustment. This is total war. Step 1. Stop the bleeding. You cannot get out of a hole while you are still digging. If you are trying to pay off debt, you cannot use the credit cards. Period. I don't care about the points. I don't care about the cash back. If you are carrying a balance, the points are a joke. You are stepping over dollars to pick up pennies. Cut them up. Freeze them in a block of ice. Delete them from your Amazon account and your Apple Pay. Remove the temptation. If you can't trust yourself, get rid of the access. Step 2. List the enemy. Tonight, you are going to sit down and list every single debt you owe. I want to see the creditor, the total balance, the minimum payment, and most importantly, the interest rate. Seeing it all on one page will be painful. It might make you sick. Good. Use that pain. That pain is your motivation to change. Step 3. The avalanche method. There are 2 ways to pay off debt. The snowball, which says pay the smallest balance first to get a psychological win. That's fine if you need a hug. But we are here for efficiency. We are here for math. We are going to use the avalanche method. You are going to list your debts from the highest interest rate to the lowest interest rate. You will pay the minimum on everything else, and you will throw every single spare dollar at the debt with the highest interest rate. Why? Because that is the debt that is growing the fastest. That is the toxic waste. You kill the 29% APR store card first, then the 24 Visa, then the 18% personal loan. You attack the most dangerous enemy first. It's not about income. It's about discipline. To make this work, you need cash. This is where the gap from Chapter 2 comes in. But for debt repayment, you need to go even harder. You need to get angry. You need to sell things. Look around your house. That treadmill you use as a clothes hanger, sell it. That second TV, sell it. If you have a $30,000 car loan and you are drowning in credit card debt, you need to sell the car. I know, that hurts to hear. But I need a nice car for my image. You don't need their permission to drive a beater. You are broke, and until you realize you are broke, you will stay broke. Driving a BMW when you owe Visa $10,000 is like wearing a Rolex when you're starving. It's a lie. Get a second job, deliver pizzas, drive Uber, do freelance work. This isn't forever. This is for a season. You are working like a maniac now, so you can live like a king later. Every time you pay down a chunk of principal, you are giving yourself a guaranteed return on investment equal to that interest rate. Pay off $1,000 of a 20% credit card, you just made a guaranteed, tax-free 20% return. You cannot find that deal on Wall Street. That is the best investment you can make right now. And what about good debt versus bad debt? People love to argue about this. But what about leverage? What about real estate? Listen to me. If you are struggling to pay your bills, all debt is bad debt. You are not a hedge fund manager. You are trying to survive. Eliminate the consumer debt first. We can talk about leverage when you have cash in the bank and a credit score that doesn't look like a temperature reading. Student loans are a heavy burden for millions. They often have lower rates than credit cards, so they might fall lower on your avalanche list. But do not get comfortable with them. They are still a drain on your monthly cash flow. They are still an obligation that limits your freedom. Treat them with the same hostility. The goal is to reach consumer debt zero. Imagine that day. Imagine the day the money hits your account and it is yours. Not Visa's, not Ford's, not the bank's, yours. Imagine looking at your paycheck and seeing that the only person who gets a cut is you, and the IRS, unfortunately. That is the feeling of shackles falling off. That is the feeling of the parasite dying. Once you kill the debt, your gap will explode. Suddenly, that $500 or $1,000 you were throwing into the furnace of interest payments is available. It is ready to be deployed. But before we start investing that money, we need to build a shield. You see, most people get out of debt and then something happens. The car breaks down, the roof leaks, they get sick, and because they have no cash, they swipe the credit card again. They fall right back into the pit. We are not going to let that happen to you. We are going to build a fortress around your finances so that when life punches you in the face, and it will, you don't have to borrow a dime. You have killed the parasite. Now, let's build the fortress.
Chapter 4. This chapter pivots from the aggressive attack on debt to the defensive strategy of building liquidity, emphasizing the psychological power of having cash reserves. Chapter 4. Build Your Fortress, the FU Money Fund. You have stopped the bleeding. You have declared war on the parasites, and you are aggressive about killing your debt. But now, we need to talk about your defense. Most Americans are walking a tightrope 1,000 feet in the air without a safety net. Statistics show that nearly 60% of people in the United States cannot cover a $1,000 emergency without borrowing money. Think about how fragile that makes you. A blown transmission, a surprise medical bill, a sudden layoff. In the blink of an eye, a minor inconvenience becomes a financial catastrophe that sends you spiraling right back into the debt trap you just fought so hard to escape. You cannot build wealth on a foundation of sand. You need concrete. You need a fortress. In traditional finance, this is called an emergency fund. It sounds boring, it sounds unsexy, it sounds like something your grandmother keeps in a jar. So we are not going to call it that. We are going to call it your FU money. Why? Because this money buys you the most valuable asset on earth, the ability to say no. When you have $0 in the bank and your boss tells you to work late for the third weekend in a row or treats you with disrespect, what do? You take it. You swallow your pride and you say, "Yes, sir." You have to. You have rent to pay. You are a slave to your lack of liquidity. But imagine you have $20,000 sitting in a savings account. That money isn't just digits on a screen. It is condensed freedom. Now, when that toxic boss pushes you too far, you have a choice. You can look them in the eye and say, no. You can walk away. You can negotiate from a position of strength because you know you can survive for months without their paycheck. That's the key. Money is not just currency. Money is courage. So, how do we build this fortress? The magic number, 3 to 6 months. We are not guessing here. We are using math. I want you to calculate your survival number. This is not your current income. This is your lean, mean survival budget. If you lost your job tomorrow, what is the bare minimum you need to keep the lights on, the roof over your head, and food on the table? Take that number and multiply it by 3. That is your minimum target. Multiply it by 6, and that is your fortress. If your survival number is $3,000 a month, you need between $9,000 and $18,000 in liquid cash. I know what you are thinking. That's a lot of money to have sitting around doing nothing. You have a choice. You can view this cash as lazy money that isn't earning high investment returns, or you can view it as an insurance policy that protects everything else you own.
Without this fund, you are forced to sell your investments when the market crashes because you need cash. With this fund, you can leave your investments alone to recover. This money isn't an investment, it is a shield. Its job isn't to make you rich, its job is to keep you from getting poor again. Where to keep it? The HYSA strategy. Do not, I repeat, do not leave this money in your regular checking account. If it is in your checking account, you will spend it. You will look at the balance, feel rich, and buy a new phone. You also do not want to put it in a standard brick-and-mortar savings account that pays 0.01% interest. That is an insult. Inflation will eat that money alive. You need a high-yield savings account, HYSA. In the U.S., there are plenty of online banks offering competitive rates that pay you 4% or 5% just to park your cash. It is FDIC insured, it is safe, and it is liquid, but it is separate from your daily spending. It takes 1 to 2 days to transfer the money. That slight friction is good. It prevents impulse spending. The rules of engagement. You must define what constitutes an emergency. This is where most people fail. A transmission blowing up on your car is an emergency. A 50% off sale at your favorite clothing store is not an emergency. Christmas is not an emergency. It happens on December 25th every single year. You know it's coming. Budget for it. It's not about income. It's about discipline. You have to be honest with yourself. If you dip into your fortress for a vacation, you are weakening your walls. You are exposing yourself to ruin. When a real emergency happens, and it will, you use the fund. You write the check. You don't stress. You don't panic. You simply pay the bill. That is the difference between a wealthy mindset and a poverty mindset. To a broke person, a broken water heater is a tragedy. To a person with a fortress, it is just an inconvenience. Once you use the money, your number one priority becomes refilling the bucket. You stop investing. You stop extra spending. You refill the fortress immediately. The psychology of safety. There's a phenomenon in psychology called scarcity mindset. When you are living on the edge, your IQ actually drops. You make worse decisions because your brain is in fight or flight mode. You take payday loans. You buy cheap junk that breaks. You pay late fees. Being poor is expensive. When you have your FU money, your brain relaxes. You stop operating out of fear. You start thinking long-term. You stop making desperate decisions. You don't need their permission to feel secure. The bank wants you to have a credit card for emergencies so they can charge you interest. They hate people with cash reserves. Be the person the bank hates. There is another layer to this fortress. It's not just about job loss. It's about volatility. We are about to move into the world of investing. We are about to talk about the stock market. The stock market is a roller coaster. It goes up, but it also crashes. It crashes hard. If you do not have a cash cushion, you will panic when the market drops 20%. You will see your retirement account losing value. You will get scared and you will sell at the bottom. That is financial suicide. But if you have 6 months of cash in the bank, you don't care if the market drops. You can wait. You can ride out the storm. The fortress gives you the emotional stability to be a successful investor. Some of you are aggressive. You are saying, 6 months is too much. I want to invest that money. Listen to me. Getting rich requires aggression. Staying rich requires paranoia. You need a healthy dose of paranoia. Murphy's Law states that anything that can go wrong will go wrong, and it usually goes wrong at the worst possible time. You will lose your job the same week your furnace breaks. That is how life works. If you are unprepared, that week destroys you. If you are prepared, it's just a Tuesday. So, here's your action step. Before you put a single dime into the stock market beyond your employer match, which we will discuss later, you fill this bucket. Start with $1,000. Get that done this week. Sell something. Hustle. Get to $1,000 so you have a buffer. Then scale it to 1 month of expenses. Then 3 months. Then, if you have a family or a volatile income, go for 6. Building this fund will feel slow. It isn't exciting. You won't get the dopamine hit of seeing your stocks go up. It will feel like you are parking money in a boring account. Good. Boring is safe. Boring is effective. Once the fortress is built, the game changes completely. You are no longer playing defense. You have protected your downside. You have eliminated the risk of going back to zero. Now the shackles are off. Now every extra dollar you earn doesn't need to be hoarded for safety. It can be sent out into the world to multiply. You have widened the gap. You have killed the debt. You have built the fortress. You are finally ready to stop working for money and start making money work for you. It is time to turn on the engine of wealth. It is time to understand the most powerful force in the financial universe. Let's talk about compound interest.
Chapter 5. Stop saving, start owning. The engine of compound interest. You have been lied to your entire life. You were told that savers are winners. You were told to put your money in the bank for a rainy day and keep it safe. I am here to tell you that in the current economic environment, savers are losers. If you leave your money sitting in a standard bank account, you are not keeping it safe. You are slowly setting it on fire. You are guaranteeing that you will become poorer every single day. Why? Because of the silent thief called inflation. In the United States, the cost of living rises every single year. A loaf of bread, a gallon of gas, a house, a medical bill, it all costs more this year than it did last year. If inflation is running at 3% or 4% and your bank account is paying you 0.5%, you are losing purchasing power. Your money is rotting. Think of it like this. You are trying to run up a down escalator. If you stand still, saving cash, the escalator carries you down to the bottom. You have to move faster than the escalator just to stay in the same place. This brings us to the most critical shift in your financial identity. You must stop being a saver and start being an owner. You have a choice. You can work for money, or you can make your money work for you. When you put money in a bank, you are lending it to the bank. They pay you a pittance, maybe 1% if you are lucky. Then they turn around and lend that same money to someone else for a car loan at 7% or a credit card at 20%. The bank is getting rich off your capital. The bank is the owner. You are just the source. To become wealthy, you must move to the other side of the equation. You must own the assets that benefit from inflation and economic growth. This is where we introduce the eighth wonder of the world, compound interest. Compound interest is the engine of wealth. It is the force that turns small, consistent actions into massive fortunes. It works on a simple principle. Your money makes babies. And then those babies grow up and make their own babies. And then their babies make babies.
At first, it looks slow. You invest $1,000, and after a year, maybe you made $100. You think, big deal, that's dinner for two. But give it time. Give it 10 years. Give it 20 years. Suddenly, your money is earning more in interest in a single year than you earn at your job. That's the key. You have to reach the crossover point, the moment when your investment returns exceed your living expenses. That is the definition of freedom. As the legendary investor Warren Buffett said, if you do not find a way to make money while you sleep, you will work until you die. So, how do we measure the speed of this engine? We use a mental math trick called the Rule of 72. I want you to memorize this. The Rule of 72 tells you exactly how long it takes for your money to double. You take the number 72 and divide it by your annual interest rate. Let's run the numbers. Scenario A. You leave your money in a big bank savings account earning 0.1%. 72 divided by 0.1 equals 720. It will take 720 years for your money to double. You will be dead, your great-grandchildren will be dead, and your money will still be worth nothing. Scenario B. You invest in the stock market, which historically averages about 10% per year. 72 divided by 10 equals 7.2. Every 7.2 years, your money doubles. Let's say you invest $10,000 at age 25. At 32, it's $20,000. At 39, it's $40,000. At 46, it's $80,000. At 50, it's $160,000. At 60, it's $320,000. That is without adding another penny. That is just the initial $10,000 sitting there riding the escalator up. If you keep adding to it every month, the numbers become astronomical. It's not about income. It's about discipline. It is about the discipline to let time do the heavy lifting. So, what do you buy? What do you own? Do not go out and try to pick the next hot stock. You are not a hedge fund manager. You do not have an algorithm. If you try to day trade or pick individual winners, you will likely lose. Most professionals who do this for a living fail to beat the market average. Instead of trying to find the needle in the haystack, buy the haystack. In the U.S., the most powerful wealth-building tool available to the average person is the S&P 500 Index Fund. When you buy a share of an S&P 500 index fund, you are buying a tiny piece of the 500 largest, most profitable companies in America. You are buying Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Tesla, and hundreds more. You are betting on the American economy. You are betting that over time, humans will be productive, technology will improve, and companies will make profits. Historically, that has been a very safe bet. When you own the S&P 500, you don't care if one company goes bankrupt. If one company fails, it gets kicked out of the index and replaced by a better one. The index is self-cleansing. It is a survival of the fittest machine that works for you. This is passive investing. It is boring, it is simple, and it will make you rich. You can also own real estate. This is another proven path. You buy a property, you put a tenant in it, and they pay down your mortgage while the property value goes up. We will touch on this later, but realize that real estate requires work. It is a business. Index funds require zero work. You click a button and you are done. Here's the psychological barrier you must break: volatility. The market goes up, but it also goes down. Sometimes it crashes. It dropped in 2000, it dropped in 2008, it dropped in 2020. When the market drops, the savers panic. They scream, "I lost money," and they sell. The owners do not panic.
They know that a market crash is just a for sale sign. Imagine you go to the grocery store and steak is 50% off. Do you run out of the store screaming? No, you buy more steak. When the stock market crashes, stocks are on sale. That is when fortunes are made. You don't need their permission to be a contrarian. When everyone else is fearful, you should be greedy. When everyone else is selling, you should be buying. You need to automate this. You cannot rely on your willpower. Willpower is a finite resource. You need a system. Set up an automatic transfer from your checking account to your brokerage account every single payday. Treat it like a bill. The cable company gets paid. The landlord gets paid. You must get paid first. If you wait until the end of the month to invest whatever is left, there will be nothing left. This is how you escape the trap. You earn money, income. You keep the gap, savings. You buy assets, investing. The assets make more money, compound interest. Eventually, the assets pay for your life, freedom. It is a simple formula, but it is not easy. It requires patience. It requires you to ignore the noise. Your brother-in-law will tell you about a crypto coin that is going to the moon. Ignore him. The news anchor will scream that the economy is collapsing. Ignore him. Stick to the plan. Buy the market. Hold forever. But wait, before you open a generic brokerage account and start buying index funds, there is a specific order of operations you must follow. The United States tax code is complicated, but it offers massive loopholes for people who know where to look. There are accounts that the government has created that literally give you free money and tax breaks just for saving for your own future. If you start investing in a standard taxable account before maximizing these specific tax-advantaged vehicles, you are leaving thousands of dollars on the table. You are practically shredding money. We are about to talk about the free money accounts. We are about to talk about the match. Let's move to Chapter 6.
Chapter 6. Maximize the match. Free money you are leaving on the table. Imagine you are walking down the street. You see a stranger standing on the corner holding a stack of crisp $100 bills. He stops you and says, "If you give me $100, I will staple another $100 to it and give you back $200 immediately." Would you do it? Of course you would. You would run to the ATM. You would empty your wallet. You would do that transaction as many times as he allowed you to. It is a guaranteed, risk-free, 100% return on your money in 5 seconds. If you said yes to that scenario, but you are not contributing to your employer's 401k match, you are a hypocrite. You are literally walking past a pile of free money every 2 weeks and setting it on fire. In the United States, the 401k match is the closest thing to a free lunch that exists in the financial world. Yet millions of Americans ignore it. They say, "I can't afford to contribute," or "I don't trust the stock market." Let's look at the math. If your employer offers a dollar-for-dollar match up to 3% of your salary, that means for every dollar you contribute, they give you $1. That is a 100% return on investment before you even invest the money in a single stock. Warren Buffett is happy if he gets 20% in a year. The stock market averages 10% in a year. You are getting 100% in a microsecond. There is no investment on earth that can beat the mathematical power of the employer match. If you make $60,000 a year and you skip a 3% match, you are voluntarily taking an $1,800 pay cut. You are working for less than you are worth. You are letting your company keep money that belongs to you. You have a choice. You can claim your full compensation package, or you can donate your salary back to your corporate overlords. This brings us to the financial order of operations. You cannot just throw money into random accounts and hope for the best. You need a strategy. You need a hierarchy. We are going to optimize your taxes and your growth in a specific order. Step 1. The match. This is priority number 1. You must contribute exactly enough to your 401k to get the full employer match, not a penny less. If they match 5%, you put in 5%. If you don't do this, you are mathematically failing the IQ test. Step 2. The Roth IRA. Once you get the match, stop. Do not put more into the 401k yet. Now we pivot to one of the most powerful wealth-building tools the U.S. government has ever created, the Roth IRA. IRA stands for Individual Retirement Arrangement. Roth is the name of the senator who created it. But what it really stands for is tax-free wealth. Here is the difference. In a traditional 401k, you get a tax break today. You don't pay taxes on the money now, but you pay taxes when you pull it out in retirement. You are betting that taxes will be lower in the future. In a Roth IRA, you pay the taxes today. You put in after-tax money. But, and here is the magic, that money grows tax-free. And when you pull it out in retirement, tax-free. If you invest $10,000 and it grows to $100,000 over 30 years, in a Roth IRA, that $90,000 of profit is yours. Uncle Sam gets zero. Nothing. That's the key. If you believe taxes in the United States will go up in the future, which, looking at the national debt, is a pretty safe bet, the Roth IRA is your golden ticket. You are paying the tax now while the seed is small, so you don't have to pay the tax later when the harvest is huge. Step 3. The HSA, Health Savings Account. If you have a high-deductible health plan, you have access to the Super Roth. It's called the HSA. Most people treat this like a checking account for Band-Aids. Wrong. The HSA is a triple tax advantage account. Tax deduction when you put money in. Tax-free growth while it sits there. Tax-free withdrawal if used for medical expenses. And here is the secret. Once you turn 65, if you haven't used it for health, it turns into a regular retirement account. It is the most tax-efficient vehicle in the American tax code. Max it out. Step 4. Back to the 401k. After you have grabbed the match, maxed the Roth IRA, and filled the HSA, then you go back and fill up the rest of your 401k if you still have money left over. It's not about income. It's about discipline. I hear the objections already, but I don't want to lock my money away until I'm 59 and a half. I want to retire early. This is the most common excuse for being lazy. First, there are ways to access these funds early without penalty, like the Roth conversion ladder or Rule 72T, but we won't get into the weeds right now. Second, and more importantly, you are going to be 60 one day. And that version of you will need money. Do not sacrifice your old age for your current impatience. You need buckets of money for different stages of life. These tax-advantaged accounts form the bedrock of your long-term security. You don't need their permission to legally avoid taxes. There's a difference between tax evasion, which is illegal, and tax avoidance, which is smart. The government wrote these rules. They want you to use them. They are incentivizing you to take care of yourself so they don't have to. Don't pay Uncle Sam a penny more than the law requires. Every dollar you pay in taxes is a dollar that isn't compounding for your freedom. Now, let's address the investment choices inside these accounts. A 401k or a Roth IRA is not an investment itself. It is just a bucket. You have to choose what goes inside the bucket. If you open a Roth IRA and leave the money in cash, you are a fool. You have to invest it. Go back to Chapter 5. Buy the haystack. Inside your 401k, look for the S&P 500 index fund or a total stock market index fund. Look for the lowest fees, expense ratios. If you see a fund charging 1% or 2%, run away. You want fees closer to 0.05. The financial industry loves to make this sound complicated so they can charge you management fees to handle it for you. They use fancy terms and scary charts. Ignore them. Match, Roth, index funds, sleep. That is the formula that has created more millionaires in the American middle class than any lottery ticket ever has. Let's recap your action plan for this week. Log into your employee portal. Check your contribution rate. Is it meeting the match? If not, raise it today. Open a Roth IRA with a low-cost brokerage, Vanguard, Fidelity, Schwab. Set up a monthly auto transfer, even if it is just $50 to start. Get the habit going. Check your investment allocation. Ensure you aren't sitting in cash or high-fee mutual funds. You are now capturing the free money. You are tax-optimized. You are letting compound interest do its job in the most efficient environment possible. But now we arrive at the biggest question of all. We know how to save, we know where to save, but when do we stop? How much is enough? Is it $1 million, $2 million, $5 million? If you don't have a finish line, you will run until you collapse. You need a specific number, a target, a goalpost that tells you you are done, you are free. It turns out there's a mathematical formula for that too. It's called the 4% rule, and it is going to calculate your exact price of freedom. Let's do the math in Chapter 7.
Chapter 7. The 4% Rule. Calculating your exact freedom number. Stop guessing. If I asked you right now, how much money do you need to retire? What would you say? Most people pull a number out of thin air. They say $1 million or $5 million, or they just shrug and say more than I have now. You cannot hit a target that you cannot see. If you don't have a specific number, you are running a race with no finish line. You will run until you collapse. That is not freedom, that is purgatory. The financial industry wants you to be confused. They want you to think that retirement planning is a dark art that requires expensive advisors and complicated algorithms. They want you to feel insecure, so you keep paying them fees. I am going to give you the answer in 30 seconds. It is a single piece of math that unlocks the rest of your life. It is called the 4% rule. This rule comes from a famous piece of economic research known as the Trinity Study. Researchers looked at the history of the U.S. stock market and bond market over nearly a century. They tested every possible scenario: recessions, depressions, high inflation, wars. They asked a simple question: how much money can you withdraw from your portfolio every single year without ever running out? The answer was 4%. If you invest your money in a diversified portfolio, like the index funds we discussed in Chapter 5, you can withdraw 4% of the total value in the first year of retirement. Adjust that amount for inflation every year after, and statistically, your money will last for 30 years or more. In many cases, you end up with more money than you started with. That's the key. This transforms wealth from a pile of cash into a paycheck. But let's make the math even easier for you. We can flip the 4% rule upside down to create the rule of 25. This is how you calculate your freedom number. Take your annual expenses and multiply them by 25. That's it. That is the magic formula. Step 1. Calculate exactly how much it costs to run your life for 1 year. Housing, food, insurance, travel, everything. Step 2. Multiply that number by 25. Step 3. The result is the amount you need invested to quit your job forever. Let's run the numbers. If you need $40,000 a year to live, multiply it by 25. 40,000 times 25 equals $1 million.
If you have $1 million invested, the 4% rule gives you $40,000 a year. That means you're free. If you need $80,000 a year, multiply it by 25. 80,000 times 25 equals $2 million. And if you live a high-consumption lifestyle and need $150,000 a year, then 150,000 times 25 equals $3,750,000. Do you see what just happened? The price of your freedom is directly tied to the cost of your lifestyle. This brings us back to the idea of the gap. Most people think the only way to retire early is to earn a massive income, so they can build a massive pile of cash. But the math shows something different. Cutting your expenses is actually more powerful than increasing your income. Why? Because every single dollar you cut from your budget does two things. First, it frees up money you can invest right now. Second, it permanently lowers the amount you need to save to become financially free. Let's look at a simple example. Say you pay for a premium cable package that costs $100 a month. That's $1,200 a year. To cover that $1,200 using the 4% rule, you would need $30,000 invested, because 1,200 times 25 equals $30,000. One small expense creates a $30,000 drag on your freedom number. Think about that. That cable package is not just costing you $100 a month, it is forcing you to save an extra $30,000 before you can quit your job. Is watching reruns of reality TV worth working the extra months or years it takes to save $30,000? You have a choice. You can have the high overhead, or you can have the early exit. You cannot have both. This math is liberating. It removes the fear. You don't need infinite money. You just need 25 times your spending. Math does not care about your feelings or your fears. Math only cares about your habits. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. $1 million? That's impossible. I make $60,000 a year. Stop it. That is the poverty mindset talking. Go back to chapter 5. Remember the rule of 72. Remember compound interest. You don't have to save $1 million from your paycheck. You have to save a fraction of that and let the market grow it into $1 million. If you save $1,000 a month and invest it at 8%, you will have $1 million in about 28 years. If you increase that savings rate, if you get the match, if you widen the gap, it happens much, much faster. It's not about income, it's about discipline. There is a movement in the U.S. called FIRE, Financial Independence, Retire Early. The people in this movement are not geniuses. They are regular people, teachers, engineers, truck drivers, who understood the rule of 25. They realized that if they could live for $30,000 or $40,000 a year, they could retire in their 30s or 40s. They chose freedom over status. You have to decide what kind of life you want. If you want the fat FIRE lifestyle, big house, luxury cars, first-class travel, that is fine. But understand the price tag. You will need $3 million, $4 million, or $5 million. That means you will be working longer. If you are okay with the lean FIRE, a modest home, cooking at home, simple hobbies, you might be able to walk away with $800,000. You don't need their permission to choose the lean path. You don't need to impress your neighbors with a portfolio you can't show them. Now, let's add a layer of safety. The 4% rule is a rule of thumb. It is a compass, not a GPS. If you retire and the market crashes 40% the next day, you shouldn't keep spending 4%. You need to be flexible. You cut back. You spend less that year. You pick up a side gig. This flexibility is what guarantees your success. The math works, but only if you remain adaptable. This number, your freedom number, is your North Star. Write it down. Calculate your annual spending. Be honest. Multiply by 25. That is the target. Post it on your fridge. Make it your phone background. Every time you want to buy something stupid, look at that number. Ask yourself, does this purchase help me hit the number, or does it push the number further away? When you start tracking your net worth against this number, it becomes a game. You hit 10% of your number, then 25%. When you hit 50% of your freedom number, you reach a stage called coast fire. This means you have enough invested that even if you never saved another penny, compound interest would eventually carry you across the finish line by traditional retirement age. That is a level of stress relief that no drug can provide. But to hit this number fast, to retire in 10 years instead of 40, we have to get aggressive with the big three. You can cut out lattes and Netflix subscriptions all day long and it will help, but it won't move the needle like attacking the major expenses. The average American spends 70% of their income on three things: housing, transportation, and food. If you optimize these three, you win the game. If you lose on these three, no amount of coupon clipping will save you. We are going to dissect your lifestyle. We are going to make some hard choices. We are going to talk about how to live for free, how to stop driving your wealth into the ground, and how to stop eating your future. Let's move to Chapter 8.
Chapter 8. Optimize your big three: housing, transport, and food. Stop worrying about the latte. Seriously. The personal finance world is obsessed with shaming you for buying a $5 coffee. They tell you that if you just stop drinking Starbucks, you would be a millionaire. That is mathematically ridiculous. If you buy a coffee every day, that is $1,800 a year. Should you save that? Sure. But if you are driving a $60,000 truck that gets 12 miles to the gallon to a job that pays you $50,000 a year, and you are living in a house that eats up 45% of your take-home pay, the coffee is not your problem. You are bleeding out from a severed artery, and you are trying to fix it with a Hello Kitty Band-Aid. To win the game of wealth, you have to apply the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule. You need to focus on the 20% of your expenses that cause 80% of your financial damage. In the United States, the average household spends roughly 70% of their income on just three categories: housing, transportation, and food. If you optimize these three, you can buy all the lattes you want. If you fail at these three, no amount of coupon clipping will save you. Let's break them down, starting with the biggest wealth destroyer of all. 1. Housing, the American dream or the American nightmare. We are culturally brainwashed to believe that buying the biggest house the bank will approve is the ultimate sign of success. You get a raise, buy a bigger house. Have a kid, buy a bigger house. This is a trap. Banks use a debt-to-income ratio to decide how much to lend you. They will often let your mortgage payment eat up to 28% or even 36% of your gross income. If you listen to the bank, you will be house poor for the next 30 years. You will have a beautiful roof over your head, but you will be eating ramen noodles inside of it because you have no cash flow. You have a choice. You can buy a liability that masquerades as an asset, or you can turn your housing into an income stream. I want to introduce you to the most powerful strategy for young investors: house hacking. House hacking destroys your biggest expense. The concept is simple. You buy a multifamily property, a duplex, triplex, or fourplex. You live in one unit and you rent out the others. In the U.S., you can use an FHA loan to buy a property with up to 4 units with just 3.5% down. This is almost free leverage. Let's say the mortgage is $2,500.
You rent out the other unit for $1,500. Your housing cost just dropped to $1,000. If you buy a fourplex, the rents might cover the entire mortgage and put cash in your pocket. Imagine living for free. Imagine taking that $1,500 or $2,000 a month that everyone else spends on rent and throwing it directly into your index funds. You will become a millionaire in record time. If you can't buy a multifamily, get roommates. If you are single and renting a one-bedroom apartment alone, you are paying a loneliness tax. Get a two-bedroom, split the rent, and cut your housing cost instantly. You don't need their permission to live differently. Your friends might make fun of you for having a roommate at 30. Let them laugh. You will be the one retiring at 40, while they are still paying off their 30-year mortgage. 2. Transportation, the wealth incinerator. If housing is a trap, cars are a chainsaw taking a cheerful buzz to your net worth. Americans have a love affair with cars. We identify with them. But from a financial perspective, a car is a disaster. It is a depreciating asset. The moment you drive a new car off the lot, it loses 10 to 20% of its value. Within 5 years, it is worth 40% of what you paid. Yet, the average car payment in America is skyrocketing towards $700 a month. That is insanity. If you invest $700 a month every month for 40 years, and it grows at a 10% return, you end up with over $4 million. $700 a month turns into $4 million. That's the power of compounding. That is the opportunity cost of your nice ride. You are driving a multi-million-dollar retirement fund down the highway, and it is getting rustier every day. That's the key. You must stop viewing cars as status symbols and start viewing them as appliances. A car is a tool. Its only job is to move your body from point A to point B safely. A $5,000 Toyota Camry does that job just as well as a $50,000 BMW. Here is the rule: buy used, pay cash. If you cannot pay cash, you cannot afford the car. If you must finance, follow the 20-3-8 rule. 20% down, term no longer than 3 years, payment no more than 8% of income. But frankly, I prefer you pay cash for a beater. Swallow your pride. Drive the ugly car. When you are sitting at a red light next to a luxury SUV, remember, the guy driving that SUV is likely stressed about making the payment. You are sitting on a pile of cash. Who is really winning? 3. Food, the silent leak. Finally, we have food. This is the category that sneaks up on you. It's the death by 1,000 cuts. It starts with the daily lunch out, then the Uber Eats on Tuesday because you're tired, then drinks on Friday, then brunch on Sunday. I have seen budgets where a single person spends $1,200 a month on food. That is more than some families spend. The problem is the convenience tax. When you use a delivery app, you are paying for the food, the delivery fee, the service fee, and the tip. A $12 burrito becomes a $25 transaction. It's not about income, it's about discipline. Cooking is a survival skill. It is also a wealth skill. You can meal prep a healthy lunch for $3. If you buy that lunch, it's $15. That is a $12 difference per day. Over a working month, 20 days, that is $240. Over a year, that is nearly $3,000. Add in the dinners, the alcohol, and the snacks, and you are looking at $5,000 to $10,000 a year that you are literally flushing down the toilet. I am not saying you can never eat out. I am saying it should be a treat, not a habit. If you are eating out because you are too lazy to grocery shop, you are paying a premium for your laziness.
The strategy: optimize and attack. Here is your challenge. I want you to audit your big three this weekend. Look at your housing. Can you downsize? Can you refinance? Can you house hack? Can you get a roommate? Look at your driveway. Is there a car sitting there that is worth half your annual salary? Sell it. Get out of the loan. Buy a reliable used car and invest the payment. Look at your food spending. Delete the delivery apps from your phone. Commit to grocery shopping and meal prepping for 30 days. This is extreme, I know, but normal is broke. If you want to be wealthy, you have to be unnormal. There is a famous saying by Dave Ramsey that sums this up perfectly. Live like no one else today, so later you can live like no one else. If you are willing to drive the old car, live in the smaller house, and cook your own meals for a few years, you will widen your gap so aggressively that your freedom date will zoom toward you. You are buying your life back. But here's the reality check. You can cut your expenses to the bone. You can live in a tent, walk to work, and eat beans. But there is a mathematical limit to how much you can save. You can only cut your spending to zero. You cannot save more than 100% of your income. Defense is crucial. It is the foundation. But if you want to supercharge this process, if you want to retire in 10 years instead of 20, you need to play offense. There is a limit to frugality. There is no limit to income. Once you have optimized the big three, it is time to stop looking at the coupons and start looking at the shovel. We need to increase the size of your shovel so you can fill the gap faster. It is time to talk about your career, your skills, and the art of making more money. Let's move to Chapter 9.
Chapter 9. Accelerate the process. Income skills over hourly wages. We need to have a very honest conversation about the limit of frugality. In the last chapter, we talked about cutting expenses. We talked about driving used cars and cooking at home. That is the foundation. You cannot fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom. But here is the mathematical reality. You can only cut your spending to zero. There is a floor to how much you can save. You still have to eat. You still need shelter. Once you have optimized your budget and stripped away the waste, you hit a wall. You cannot save more than 100% of your income. However, there is no limit to how much you can earn. The ceiling on your income is infinite. You can double, triple, or 10x your income. And if you keep your expenses low while your income skyrockets, you don't just widen the gap, you turn it into a canyon. You don't retire in 20 years, you retire in 5. This brings us to the concept of the shovel. If your debt and your financial freedom number are a pile of dirt you need to move, your income is the shovel. If you are making minimum wage, you are digging with a teaspoon. It doesn't matter how hard you work or how disciplined you are, it is going to take you a lifetime to move that mountain. If you make a high income, you are driving an industrial excavator. You can move the mountain in an afternoon. Most people try to solve a shovel problem with a budgeting solution. They are broke not because they buy lattes, but because their shovel is too small. So how do we get a bigger shovel? We have to destroy the hourly wage mindset. From the time you are 16 years old, you are taught to trade your time for money. You stand behind a counter for an hour, you get paid for an hour. This is the trap of the working class. It is a linear equation. To make more money, you have to work more hours. But you eventually run out of hours. You have to sleep. You have to eat. To become wealthy, you must disconnect your time from your money. You must stop being paid for your time and start getting paid for your value. That's the key. The market does not care how hard you work. The market only cares about the value you provide. A janitor works incredibly hard. A brain surgeon works incredibly hard. The brain surgeon gets paid 50 times more. Why? Is he a better person? No. It is because his skills are rare, difficult to acquire, and high leverage. Almost anyone can learn to clean a floor in a day. Very few people can learn to repair a brain. Scarcity equals value. In the modern U.S. economy, the old advice of go to college, get a degree, get a safe job is dying. A degree is no longer a golden ticket. For many, it is just a receipt for $100,000 of debt. You don't need their permission to become valuable. You don't need a piece of paper from a university to increase your income. We live in the information age. You can learn high-income skills on YouTube, through cheap online courses, or by reading books for free at the library. What are high-income skills? Sales, copywriting, digital marketing, coding, data analysis, project management, public speaking, video editing. These are skills that directly drive revenue for businesses. If you can walk into a company and say, I can help you make $100,000 more this year using this skill, they will gladly pay you $20,000 to do it. You are no longer an expense, you are an investment. You have a choice. You can stay in a role where you are easily replaceable, or you can become undeniable. There are 3 ways to increase your shovel. One is optimize your primary career. Most people leave thousands of dollars on the table because they are afraid to ask. In the U.S. corporate world, the biggest raise you will ever get is usually when you switch jobs or negotiate a new role. If you have been at the same company for 5 years and haven't had a significant raise, you are actually losing money due to inflation. You need to become a mercenary. Research your market value, document your wins. Walk into your boss's office and make the business case for why you deserve more. And if they say no, you fire them. You find a new employer who values the market rate. Loyalty to a corporation is a one-way street. They will lay you off to save a penny on earnings per share. Do not give them loyalty, give them value, and demand value in return. 2. The side hustle. The right way. There is a dangerous trap in the side hustle culture. People think driving Uber or delivering DoorDash is a business. It is not a business. It is a second job with a terrible boss, the algorithm, and no benefits. You are trading more time for more money. You are burning yourself out. It's not about income. It's about discipline. Specifically, the discipline to build leverage. If you are going to work outside your 9-to-5, build something scalable. Start a service business where you can eventually hire others. Create a digital product, an ebook, a course, or a template that you create once and sell 1,000 times. Build a YouTube channel or a blog that generates ad revenue while you sleep. Driving Uber is linear. Selling a digital product is exponential. If you sell a PDF guide for $20 and 1,000 people buy it, you made $20,000. How many hours of Uber driving does it take to make $20,000? Focus on scalability. Number 3, invest in yourself. The best return on investment you will ever get is not in the stock market. It is in your own brain. If you spend $500 on a course that teaches you how to negotiate, and you use that skill to get a $5,000 raise, you just got 1,000% return. If you buy a $20 book that teaches you how to invest in real estate, and you use it to make $20,000 on your first deal, that is a massive return. Stop being cheap with your education. You will drop $50 on drinks at a bar, but hesitate to buy a $15 book that could change your life. That is a poverty mindset. Your greatest asset is not your stock portfolio, it is your ability to earn. If the stock market crashes tomorrow and goes to zero, they can take your money. But they cannot take your skills. If you know how to sell, you can be dropped in any city in America with $0 and be making money by the end of the week. That is true security. Here's your action step for this chapter. Audit your hours. Look at how you spend your free time. The average American watches 3 to 4 hours of TV a day. That is over 20 hours a week. That is a part-time job. You are working for Netflix and they are paying you in entertainment while stealing your future. Cancel the streaming services. Take those 20 hours a week and dedicate them to learning one high-income skill. Give it 6 months. In 6 months, you could be a proficient copywriter. You could be a certified project manager. You could know the basics of Python. Then take that skill to the marketplace. Use the extra income to fill the gap. Remember the formula. Keep expenses low, defense. Push income high, offense. Invest the difference, wealth. When you combine a high savings rate with a high income, the math of the 4% rule starts to look ridiculous. You aren't waiting until 65. You are looking at freedom in 7, 8, or 10 years. You become an unstoppable force. But there is one final danger. We have talked about building the castle. We have talked about digging the moat. We have talked about filling the treasury. But once you have the wealth, you become a target. The market will try to take it back. Inflation will try to eat it. Emotions will try to trick you into losing it. Getting rich is hard. Staying rich is harder. As we move to the final chapter, we are going to talk about how to protect the goose that lays the golden eggs. We are going to talk about risk, asset allocation, and the psychology of the finish line. Let's finish this. Move to Chapter 10.
Chapter 10. Protect the goose. Staying wealthy is harder than getting wealthy. Congratulations. If you have followed the steps in this book, you have changed your financial DNA. You have rejected the consumer mindset. You have destroyed your debt. You have widened the gap. You have invested in the great engines of the American economy. And now you are staring at a number on a screen. Maybe it is $1 million. Maybe it is 2 million. You have hit your freedom number. But here is the cold, hard truth that no one tells you. Getting rich is hard, but staying rich is harder. Getting rich requires aggression. It requires risk. It requires offense. Staying rich requires paranoia. It requires humility. It requires defense. History is littered with the corpses of people who got rich and then lost it all. Lottery winners, pro athletes, rock stars, and yes, early retirees who miscalculated the math. They thought the game was over. They didn't realize the game had just changed levels. You are now the caretaker of a golden goose. Your portfolio is the goose, and the interest it generates are the golden eggs. As long as you only eat the eggs, you will be fed forever. But if you get greedy, or if you get scared, and you carve into the goose itself, the magic stops. You go back to zero, and going back to zero when you are 50 or 60 years old is a tragedy. So, how do we protect the goose? We have to talk about the silent assassin of retirement. Sequence of returns risk. This is a technical term, but it is the most important concept for your financial survival. The market averages 10% over the long run, but it does not give you 10% every year like a paycheck. One year it is up 30%. The next year it is down 20%. The average is 10%, but the ride is bumpy. If you retire and the market crashes 40% the very next day, you are in the kill zone. If you withdraw 4% of your money while your portfolio is down 40%, you are depleting your capital at a rate it can never recover from. You are selling shares at the bottom. You are locking in your losses. If this happens early in your retirement, you will run out of money. That's the key. To survive the kill zone, you need an asset allocation strategy that shifts from pure growth to resilience. During your wealth building phase, you were 100% in stocks. You didn't care about volatility because you were buying, not selling. Now that you are withdrawing, you need a cash cushion. We discussed the FU Money Fund earlier. In retirement, this evolves into the bucket strategy. Imagine 3 buckets. Bucket 1, the cash tent, years 1 to 3.
This bucket holds 1 to 3 years of living expenses in cash or cash equivalents, high-yield savings funds, money market funds, or CDs. This money is not invested in the stock market. It is safe. It earns little interest, but it does not crash. If the market tanks the year you retire, you do not sell a single share of stock. You live out of bucket 1. You spend your cash. You let the market recover. Bucket 2. Stability. Years 4 to 10. This bucket holds bonds or dividend-paying assets. It is less volatile than stocks, but pays more than cash. If the market stays down for a long time, a recession, you tap into this bucket after the cash runs out. Bucket 3. Growth. Years 11 plus. This is the bulk of your portfolio. This is your S&P 500 index funds. This money stays invested in the market to fight inflation and grow for the next 30 or 40 years. By having these buckets, you remove the fear of a crash. You disconnect your monthly bills from the daily stock price. You have a choice. You can be a victim of the market's mood swings, or you can insulate yourself with a wall of cash. But the danger isn't just mathematical. It is psychological. There is a disease that infects successful people. It is called one more year syndrome. You hit your number. You have enough money, but you're scared. You think, what if I run out? What if healthcare costs triple? What if the world ends? So you say, I'll just work one more year to be safe. Then that year passes and you say, just one more. 5 years later, you are still sitting in the cubicle you hate, trading the most valuable years of your remaining life for money that you do not need. It's not about income. It's about discipline. In this case, it is the discipline to walk away. You have to trust the math. If you have 25 to 30 times your expenses and you have a cash cushion and you are flexible, you are safe. At some point, earning more money becomes a mental illness. You are hoarding resources that you will never spend. You are the richest person in the graveyard. You don't need their permission to quit. Your boss will try to guilt you. Your colleagues will be confused. Society tells you that your value as a human being is tied to your job title. When you say, I'm retired at age 40, people will look at you like you have two heads. They will ask, but what do you do? This brings us to the final trap, the identity crisis. Financial freedom solves your money problems. It does not solve your life problems. If you hate yourself, you will still hate yourself on a beach in Thailand. If you are bored now, you will be bored with $1 million. Many people retire and fall into depression. They lose their structure. They lose their social circle. They lose their sense of purpose. You need to retire to something, not just from something. You need a project, a passion, a mission. Maybe it's charity. Maybe it's learning an instrument. Maybe it's starting a business just for fun, where profit doesn't matter. The goal of financial freedom is not to do nothing. Humans are not designed to do nothing. We are designed to work. The goal is to do work that matters to you on your own terms without the threat of starvation hanging over your head. That is the ultimate luxury. The ability to wake up and ask, what do I want to create today? So, here is your final defensive strategy. Review your allocation. As you get within 5 years of your target date, start building that cash tent. Don't be 100% stocks the day before you quit. Test drive your budget. Live on your retirement budget for 6 months while you are still working. Prove that you can do it. Find your purpose. Start building your post-work life before you leave the job. Ignore the noise. The news will always sell fear. Market crash imminent, dollar collapsing, Social Security bankrupt. If you listen to them, you will sell everything and hide in a bunker. You must remain rational. The world has survived wars, pandemics, and depressions. It keeps spinning. The economy keeps growing. Getting rich requires aggression. Staying rich requires paranoia. Be paranoid enough to have a safety net, but optimistic enough to stay invested. We have reached the end of the roadmap. We started in the trap of the 9 to 5. We walked through the fire of debt. We built the fortress of savings. We ignited the engine of compound interest. We optimized our taxes, calculated our freedom number, slashed our expenses, and supercharged our income. Now the keys are in your hand. The door is open, but I cannot walk through it for you. Information without execution is just entertainment. If you just nod your head and go back to your old habits, this audiobook was a waste of your time. The system is betting on you to fail. The banks are betting on your apathy. Prove them wrong. Your freedom is waiting. It is bought with discipline. It is paid for with patience, and it is worth every single penny.
You now have the blueprint. We have deconstructed the math, the mindset, and the mechanics of buying back your life. But information without execution is just entertainment. The system is betting on you to fail. The banks are betting you will stay in debt. Your employer is betting you will need that paycheck next month. Prove them wrong. Identify your gap today. Cut the parasite of debt. Start the engine of compound interest. Do not wait for the perfect time, because the clock is ticking on the only resource you can never earn back, your time. You have a choice to make right now. You can go back to sleep, or you can wake up and walk the path to freedom. The roadmap is in your hands. The rest is up to you.